time.
Yeah, there was so much food. I've never seen so much food in my life.
Oh, gosh. So anyhow, we're talking about the China trip, and there's a lot of people in town that did go to China, and I really thank Kristen and Dawn for sharing this hour with us about China. And we have to go to break right now, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Let's Talk Travel, sponsored in part by Travel Connections and Social Club. And today's show is on China, and we're back with Kristen and Dawn. Welcome back. And we were talking, our first segment was on the food, and now we're going to move right into the government, politics, and the export of China. So welcome back to the second segment. And Dawn, what did you think about how the government is over in China these days?
Well, it's one of the things that I learned is that communist China has moved more into liberalism. They have a very powerful economy that's growing. I mean, exponentially. It was just amazing to see how things are just expanding. I know while I was there, I met many engineers, contractors from the United Kingdom.
Oh, okay, so they weren't just Chinese then?
No, they were from the UK coming in specifically.
Was there Americans there too?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Working? Oh, okay.
Mainly for the purpose of building their infrastructure.
Okay. And this was in both the towns, Beijing and Shanghai, both, or?
I saw more in Shanghai than Beijing. Beijing seemed to be, if we were to talk about government run, definitely was more government, and you could tell that by the military presence, as well as what I would consider like pseudo-military and a lot of law enforcement. But of course, one of the things that's going on in Beijing right now is they're preparing for the 2008 Olympics.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So.
Did when you entered the airport, Kristen, was there like a lot of soldiers and guns and military? You remember after 9/11, you couldn't go even to our small airport. They had guns. So did they have them over there in that airport?
I didn't see any guns, but the first thing I noticed as we were taxiing into the terminal was just huge barbed wire fences, and I didn't see
around the terminal.
Yeah, around the tarmac area, and then the airport was completely deserted. It was strange. Just the military presence. Yeah, I didn't see any guns, but definitely like a weird feeling.
Geez. And what kind of flag do they have over there? Or?
They have a full-on red flag, and I think it's 5 stars.
I think it's 5.
Okay.
I actually submitted one of the pictures here for the show that I got a pretty good shot of it.
Yeah.
China, as I'd mentioned, seems to be moving in more of a liberalism type nation. And even though they've got a booming economy, though, some of the things that I have read on the internet recently, though, is that the leadership is still kind of stuck back in an autocratic era.
Yeah.
But
did you see that they had a lot of televisions where, TVs, cameras, things like that, or like we have over here, or your hotel stays? Did you have a lot of that?
We did. I mean, but again, with our particular tour, we were taken to places that I think were specifically catering to foreign visitors, Americans.
Okay.
So like the television.
You didn't walk the back streets of the...
I did.
You did?
Yeah. The biggest thing I noticed about the government was that I think the government is really trying to track down on, like for example, there were huge billboards and signage covering up the older, poorer areas of the city, and I believe that's in preparation for the Olympics too. They want to put up a good front as to show that China really is changing, because you could tell China's in a really big transformation period. There's a mix of the old and the new. It's very evident. That's the biggest thing I noticed.
And I guess there's just tons of people over there. I know when I was over there, I mean, every place there was bicycles. Big business, huh?
Oh, yeah.
So that,
more people are buying cars these days.
They don't have any SUVs over there, right?
Very few.
Yeah, they're all real tiny cars.
Yeah, very tiny, unsafe cars.
And I know you had submitted some pictures with how the people move things, and some of the bicycles with the trailer things on the back so they can get supplies back and forth.
Yeah, transportation is kind of interesting right now. I know that Beijing, out of the population there, only about 40% actually have cars. And in Shanghai, the population there's only about 20% have cars.
Oh my
so
gosh.
they have to use other means of transportation.
Yeah.
In all of China, it's 1 in 100 people have cars.
1 in 100?
So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nothing like America where everybody has a car, huh?
You know, the thing is, with the government of China, one of the things that I kind of was getting a sense, and maybe Kristen might have gotten a sense, is that tourism seems to be a very big part right now
It
of
really would
generating
probably be, yeah.
revenue. I happen to bring some props
Yeah,
in.
why don't we go into some of those? Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about what you brought back?
Well, some different places that we were taken to. We went to what was called a jade factory.
Okay.
And I happened to pick up a ring for myself.
Okay.
And there was a jade bracelet. Jade is a very big product in China, and
that's a
Has been for
state run, right?
centuries,
yes.
And why don't you tell the audience about what is a state run? What does that mean?
I'd have to say, for the most part, it's all the revenue that comes in, of course, goes to the government. The people that are work there are assigned certain jobs. For example, we went to a silk factory and an embroidery factory.
Okay.
And the one I'd like to talk about at
Why don't you show the silk scarf that you brought back here? And we've got a couple of, as props, we've got the wonderful silk scarf on the table here, and then the one in the background there, and then he's holding up his other silk scarf. Why don't you tell us about I think both of you went to the silk farm, so why don't you explain about that?
Very interesting process.
Yeah?
So
How does that work?
Well, they actually have a silk farm, and they get the cocoon. Looks like one of our cocoons, but much bigger. It actually looks like a small chicken egg. And there's a process where they have to kill the larva inside so that it doesn't damage the cocoon itself. And then they start the process where they hook it up to a machine, and it starts to basically unweave the silk.
Oh.
And you can just barely see the thread as it's spooling up.
How would they make a machine like that?
It was an extremely interesting process. And as a result of doing the silk, then they can create these silk scarves.
Wow.
They made silk duvets. They were trying to get us to buy the silk duvets, and they showed us the whole process of stretching the silk out. It can stretch extremely far.
Really?
And it's very hard to pull.
That scarf can actually stretch?
Well, not
this
the individual threads.
Oh, the individual threads.
Yeah.
This is actually a finished product, but they have the pillows and a mattress pad or a pad, bedspread. But what they do there is they'll take, I don't know, how big was that?
It started off about 12 inches in diameter.
And
length,
like 4 or 5 workers would get together, and they would each grab it, and then they would back up, and they could stretch this silk pad
Oh
out.
my gosh.
Yeah.
So,
Then you brought some other things. I guess you brought some tea back in the little box there, in the fancy little box?
yeah, we ended up going to a tea plantation, and I ended up purchasing the Emperor's tea. I figured if I was going to get some, I was going to go for the best.
Okay.
So this particular tea that I have is considered the Emperor's tea.
Okay. And what do we have here in our deal? Is that silk too?
This is it's made out of silk, but this is embroidery, and this is a very small piece. When we were learning how they do this, we were basically told that one person is given an assignment on a particular piece that they want to do.
Oh, okay.
And in some cases, it could take that person 3 years to complete it.
Oh my goodness. And I guess you have one quick picture of another silk painting you just got. You brought it back and had it.
This was
framed
actually
here.
kind of an interesting story. When we were in Beijing, I happened to meet the artist of the motel or the hotel we were staying at just by chance, and he was kind enough to take me to his studio where I happened to see a lot of his other work. Well, he actually does paintings for the government. He was assigned, that was his job. He was like the decorator.
Do they get paid by the government then, or do they just live? I don't understand how that works really.
I'm not real sure as far as monetary, like wages that we would receive for doing work.
Yeah.
I didn't.
State run and
The thing I noticed, it just seems like there's a job for everything. Like